So here we go. This is the Lodge, the mini Stanley Hotel. This is the Lodge that was built in 1910 next door to the main Stanley Hotel, and we are staying in this spirited room. And I completely forgot to shut the door, but we're in room 1302, which is a haunted room here at the hotel. But what I want to do, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I want to give you guys a good perspective of what the Stanley Hotel looks like at night. And I'm going to be quiet, respectful to guests. But right here, we are in the Lodge. And this is next door to the main Stanley Hotel. But look at this weird, quirky stuff. They have a pheasant and this atrium-looking glass cage. And there's like a little seating area with a more modern flat-screen TV. But we're staying here in a spirited room on the 3rd floor of the Lodge, and it's in this dark corridor here at the end of the hall. Well, it's in this dark section at the end of the hallway, which is kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie, when you come to check in, the rest of the 3rd floor is all nice and bright and well lit. But then you come over here to check into the spirited room, and it is completely just dark. So it is a little creepy, I will say that. But anyway, here is the 3rd floor of the Lodge. Again, this is not the main Stanley Hotel. It is what they call the mini Stanley Hotel. This whole building here is like a miniature version of the actual Stanley Hotel. But this building was built in 1910, just 1 year after the Stanley Hotel was built back in 1909. So it's still a very old hotel, still the same era, and still very, very haunted, so they say. Just to give you an idea, this is the 3rd floor, and there's a big corridor on this side, as opposed to the side we're staying on. You can see how dark it is on the side we're staying on over there. So it is, I love that. It is a really cool vibe. Look at this. This is the grand staircase here at the Lodge, and they've got all these mirrors, these elegant mirrors lining the staircase. And I am on the 2nd floor looking down. This is the grand entryway, the main lobby here at the Lodge. It's so quiet tonight. It's just us here staying in the spirited room. What's up? But yeah, just a very elegant hotel. So in the main lobby, look, they've got a bunch of old blocks, like kids' toys. And that just makes me think of the twin daughters in the movie The Shining. Play with us, Danny. Play with us. Here is the front porch to the Lodge, and there's the official title right there, the Stanley, a Grand Heritage Hotel since 1909. And there it is, the Lodge at the Stanley Hotel. And this is the grand entryway to that. But just, again, a beautiful porch. You've got this old school car right in front of me that has the Stanley on it. And they've got these elegant lion statues that are straight out of a horror movie. Look at that. Guarding the front entrance to the Lodge. But they call this the mini Stanley because there's the Grand Hotel herself. That is the Stanley Hotel straight in front of me. And the Lodge here we're staying at tonight, that is actually my room. Right up there, that's the spirited room we're staying at, the 3rd floor. But look at this, it really is a mini version of the Stanley Hotel. Supposedly a third of the size of the actual Stanley Hotel. And again, this building opened up in 1910. It was originally a bachelor housing, a housing for bachelors. Which is kind of funny because I am a bachelor myself, my brother is a bachelor, and my sister's getting married on Saturday this weekend here in Estes Park. So, hey, bachelor party at the Lodge. Ghost, you're welcome. Bachelor Ghost, you're welcome. But yeah, just again, it's so enchanting at night. That's why I love checking into hotels and exploring them after the sun goes down, because they just have a completely different feel to them. And I think maybe that's something that Stephen King felt when he stayed here back in 1974. Of course, was inspired to write his famous horror novel, The Shining. But here it is. This is the Stanley Hotel since 1909. And I'm going to show you this in the morning when the light's up. But this is a hedge maze right here. The movie was never filmed here. This is where Stephen King stayed in 1974. It inspired the novel The Shining. So this hotel here has nothing to do with the Stanley Kubrick 1980 movie, The Shining. Nothing was filmed here from that movie. This is the real deal. But because people love that movie so much, they wanted a hedge maze. So this hedge maze here in front of the Stanley, they put one in 2015, and it's growing. So we'll explore that in the morning, but look at this at night. And they've got the Ukrainian flag colors, the blue and yellow, because of the war going on there, Russia invading Ukraine. But this is the main Stanley Hotel. Got the check-in counter here, and one thing that I loved checking into this hotel earlier is look at these old-fashioned keys that they have there at the main desk. Now these keys, they don't use these anymore. The keys here are electronic, but these were keys that were used in the past, and I love that they still have them on display. And that is the founders themselves. That is F.O. Stanley right there, and his wife Flora, with their pictures there. And this old school clock ticking is amazing to me. It just sets the mood. So you really do get those vibes when you come here and check into the Stanley Hotel. And we've got the fireplace lit. Boy, the atmosphere here is just off the charts. It's amazing. It really is like stepping into a Stephen King novel. And this is the bar right here. It's not open currently. I will show you what this looks like tomorrow. But this bar here is where they filmed a couple scenes from Dumb and Dumber. And, you have to go to the bar if you're at the Stanley, because the movie The Shining, the novel The Shining, where Jack Torrance, his character, sits at the bar, drinks with the bartender, Mr. Grady, and ends up turning into a absolute maniac that wants to axe his wife and child to death here in the hotel. But all that started here in the bar, in the story. So you just have to come here and have a drink. I feel like that's something that's mandatory if you come to the Stanley Hotel. But look at this here. Here's another beautiful photo, an old painting of Wyndham Thomas, the Earl of Dunraven. Now, he didn't have anything to do with the Stanley Hotel. He actually owned the land here in Estes Park back in the mid to late 1800s. So that's cool that they have a tribute to this man here in the lobby. But the Stanley Hotel had nothing to do with him. He was a landowner here in the late 1800s here in Estes Park. And the Stanley Hotel was, of course, built under F.O. Stanley. And here is an artist's rendering of him building a violin. So F.O. is short for Freeland Oscar, and he had an identical twin brother named Francis Edgar who went by F.E. So I'll be just saying the initials going on, but they like to go by their initials, F.O. and F.E. And they made their money and their fame through innovations in photography in the late 1800s. I'm vague on all the details on their stories and their lives and what they did when it comes to photography. I do know that they sold some of their patents to Kodak and made millions of dollars back in the day, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so he got sick with tuberculosis while living out on the East Coast and was told by a doctor to move out west to Colorado to get that fresh mountain air to hopefully maybe improve his conditions. So he took his doctor's word, and he and his wife Flora moved out here in the early 1900s, and miraculously here in Estes Park, his health completely turned around and improved drastically. So he started living out here and had summer homes and ended up investing in building this very hotel, the Stanley Hotel that I'm standing in now, which opened up in 1909. So he is the creator and the founder of this grand hotel. I mean, this is the real deal, folks. This is the Stanley Hotel, reportedly one of the most haunted hotels in North America. And obviously, a big inspiration in the horror genre with Stephen King and his novels, and of course the famous horror movie The Shining and the book The Shining. So, just again, awesome to see. And there's an old motor car here as well. FO and FE, the identical twin brothers, the founders of this hotel, were also big into cars and building early automotive cars and horseless carriages, if you will, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In fact, FE, Freeland's twin brother, was killed in an early car wreck. So, a little bit of tragedy along with the innovations they were trying to make. But yeah, just beautiful at night, just enchanting. I mean, they got the fires going. And look at this old piano. Wow. To be honest, I don't even know what that brand is. Clinkering? If I'm reading that right, Boston, Massachusetts. Obviously, it's an antique, so no playing the piano. But again, Flora, the wife of F.O., Freeland Oscar Stanley, she was an amazing piano player. So there are a lot of pianos around the grounds, and I'm assuming she may have played on this very piano here. I can't confirm that, but this looks old. Looks like she could have. And here is the billiard room. The lights are out right now. But the billiard room here, this is where Stephen King drank at the bar. So this used to be where the bar was back in 1974. In fact, the original bar. And I got a better view of this during the tour earlier today that I'll show you. But that bar right there in front of me is the very bar that Stephen King drank at. And he got really drunk on the night of October 30th, 1974. And there was a bartender named Mr. Grady that served him that night. So some of that story that ended up in the novel The Shining was actually based off of real life events. Like Stephen King, in a way, was that character of Jack Torrance. He did stay at this hotel. He was snowed in here in 1974, and he did get extremely drunk that night. And there was a bartender named Mr. Grady. So, you know, I've always heard that some of the best writing is based off of real experience you know. And I think a true artist, a true author, will sprinkle in these life events into their writings and elaborate on that in creative manners. And I think that really is what makes good writing versus poor stories. But here's the music room. And wow, look at that fireplace. And there's another old piano over there as well in the corner. But just a beautiful room. You can hear the acoustics in here too. My voice is echoing. I don't know if they use it very often anymore, but that is the music room. There is some writing here as well. The music room originally served two functions. In the morning, it was the ladies' parlor, and in the afternoon, chamber and ensembles performed on the alcove stage. The beautiful Steinway concert grand piano on the stage is one of the few remaining original pieces of furniture left in the hotel. That's amazing. So that piano right there is one of the original furniture pieces here. You can bet that Flora played on that, F.O.'s wife, the founder's wife. And man, John Philip Sousa, very famous, very genius composer. A lot of his music was marches, marching band music in the late 1800s here in the United States. But the fact that he also performed on that piano and carved and tuned it, carved his initials and tuned that is incredible. So a lot of history here at the Stanley Hotel. So I'm heading upstairs on the second floor of the Stanley Hotel. This is the grand staircase. Wow. Now they are renovating the hotel right now, and that's why I'm staying at the lodge. There's not a lot of rooms open right now in the main hotel because it's under renovations. Just pretty wild. But I wanted to take you to room 217 because this is probably the most famous room here at the Stanley Hotel. This is the room that Stephen King stayed in. People are clawing at the door. They're knocking on the door too. But that is the room that Stephen King stayed at here in the Stanley Hotel. And there's a lot of history with that room. I'm hearing a lot of creepy scratching noises. I'm assuming somebody is staying in that room. If not, this is incredible. But that is the room that Stephen King stayed at back in 1974 and inspired the book The Shining. And there's some history too. In 1911, there was an explosion here in this hotel, and room 217 was one of the rooms that was horribly damaged. There were 5 people seriously injured in that explosion, but nobody actually died in it. And I'm hearing scratching and clawing on the door, and I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming people are staying in that room tonight, which is freaking cool. But here's a really cool spiral staircase that they have here as well. But yeah, man, this is just as good as it gets. This is one of the most famous haunted hotels, definitely in North America, maybe even the world. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of renovation going on. So we're going to head up to the 4th floor. Just real quick, because I did a tour here back in 2016. And it's really wild being here actually while it's renovated. So I did a tour here back in 2016, and there's a stairwell here that goes up to the roof. But I remember there was an etching in the ceiling of the stairwell. They had red rum in it. And now there's just a bunch of initials. But there used to be red rum. Actually, you can make it out right there. Right there. Right there. You can see it still says red rum right there. That's amazing. I'll show you a better picture of what that looked like back in 2016, but there is red rum carved into the ceiling of the 4th floor stairwell. And look at these elegant elevators. Just beautiful. But I will say, this is actually super unique to see this while it's under renovation. I used to renovate hotels for Extended Stay America. I was a project manager. So this kind of brings back memories to me. We would renovate floor by floor by floor. But yeah, the hotel is undergoing renovations, and I think it's supposed to be opened up, refurbished this summer of 2022. Again, these old elevators with the gates that slide. That's definitely something you don't see anymore. And I mean, look at this. You can almost imagine, like in the movie, the blood just pouring out of the elevator as the doors open up. It'd be so wild. But anyway. But yeah, isn't that cool? Here's an inside peek of these rooms being renovated. So yeah, that was the infamous room 217 in this beautiful spiral staircase right next to that as well. But yeah, all is quiet tonight in the Stanley Hotel. I love these old grates, these old iron. Oh jeez, did you see that? It's so dry out. I just had an electric shock. That was insane. I don't know how that turned out on camera, but that was insane. I just got shocked by this grate. But this is an old iron grate for air conditioner, for airflow. That is insane. It has been so dry here in Estes Park today. Like I said, I had a bloody nose earlier. We've been getting a lot of static electricity. My brother's hair was standing up earlier. My cousin's hair was standing up earlier. Yeah, it's very, very dry here in Estes Park. But making my way down the grand staircase back into the main lobby, and I think we're about ready to call it a night and head back to the lodge. And just one thing I didn't point out earlier is look at this beautiful chandelier. I want to say that's a Tiffany chandelier. I may be wrong, but it's got that stained glass look that is often a characteristic of the Tiffany lamps. But yeah, and here's the again, that awesome, beautiful elevator door with the sliding gate. You don't see that anymore. That's a relic of a different era. This is the basement. This is where the ghost tours, well, I shouldn't just say the ghost tours. This is where the day tours, where you can learn the history of the Stanley Hotel took place, and the night ghost tours. And they've got a lot of movie and history shown here, a lot of photos from Stephen King and the Shining movies. Dumb and Dumber that was filmed here, and celebrities that have been here, royalty that's been here. There's a lot of history here, and they have these old ice boxes over here as well with a lot of historic items. Gotta love the typewriter. Gotta have a typewriter in a hotel that Stephen King was inspired to write one of his most famous horror novels. Here are pieces of that room 217, that room that Stephen King stayed in that's also supposed to be haunted. There was an explosion here back in 1911 where 5 employees were injured. Nobody was killed but injured. And these are pieces of that original room right here. And that's what the room looked like in the early 20th century before the explosion. And I love this old cashier. This old cashier stand. I don't know what the history is on this, but it just looks very cool. And this door right here leads to the underground tunnels, the servant tunnels that led underneath the Stanley Hotel to the Lodge Hotel to the concert hall. And they get a lot of paranormal activity in these tunnels. I was able to get into these during the nightly ghost tour. I literally just heard that door crack. I'm not even kidding. That was a little creepy, not gonna lie, but that was weird. Don't know if that turned out on camera or not, but this door literally just cracked. Could be settling, but because I was talking about this, that was kind of weird. But anyway, I was in the night tour tonight, and I've got some footage of what this tunnel looks like. But I would say that's probably the creepiest area that I've been in so far, is right behind this door here at the Stanley Hotel. It's cool, an old stove or a furnace. And I love this little miniature version of the Stanley Hotel. It's like a creepy dollhouse version of it here in the lower level. And here again is the desk where you can sign up for the tours, the day tours and the night tours at the hotel. Totally worth it. They're amazing. The tour guides were spectacular, full of information. They did not make it boring. They show you around the grounds. It's definitely a must-do thing if you're here. It's a must-do event. It's definitely worthwhile. So I highly recommend doing either the day or the night tours. They're both fun in their own ways. They're both uniquely different, but you'll learn a lot through it, and it's fun. I highly recommend it. And there's this weird aquarium with no fish in it. There's nothing in here. It's just an empty aquarium here in the lower level of the Stanley Hotel. And they've got a little cafe here as well with a bunch of commercialized music playing. So with that, let's head back upstairs into the main lobby and out the front door. And I think we will be wrapping this late night tour up of the Stanley Hotel. All right, well, this is the front porch of the Stanley Hotel. It is almost 2:30 in the morning, and I think I'm about ready to wrap this thing up. Here's the front door. There's also a plaque commemorating and stating the Stanley Hotel opened June of 1909. F.O. Stanley, again, he loved to go by those initials, so F.O. Stanley was the founder, and T. Robert Weiger, the architect. And here it is, the National Register of Historic Places. It's official. This property has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places by the United States Department of the Interior. So this is a national landmark. Just so much history, and whether or not you believe in ghosts, it's still fun to see the creativity that came out of this place and thrill seekers coming here to see if they do hear or come across something that goes bump in the night. Here at the Stanley Hotel, one of the most famous hotels here in North America. Well, let me get back to the lodge and I'll wrap it up in the lobby here. It's dark, it's hard to see, but I'll have more to film in the morning. I always love to film hotel videos at night and do like a two-parter where you have a night perspective and a morning daylight perspective. So here's the hotel, and I will wrap this thing up in the lobby of the lodge, and we'll go from there. Well, here I am back at the lodge, and gonna call it a night. I think this was an amazing adventure exploring the Stanley Hotel and the Lodge Hotel at night, in the middle of the night, during the witching hours, so they say. And I don't have any weird feelings. To me, it's just a very enchanting, beautiful, mystique-like hotel with so much amazing history, and it does have a little bit of that eeriness, or who knows, maybe you can see an apparition here. Maybe something can go bump in the night. But it's definitely such an amazing hotel that I can see why Stephen King would be so inspired to create a horror novel in a setting like this. A pristine hotel in a remote mountain setting here in Estes Park, surrounded by the Rocky Mountains. Well, this is going to be calling it for tonight, but I still have plenty more coming your way, filming tomorrow here, the Stanley Hotel in the daylight hours, and also Estes Park. So thank you for tagging along with me tonight. And if something happens in my spirited room, I will definitely share it with you. So I still have a night ahead of me, trying to sleep in one of the most haunted rooms here at the Stanley Hotel. So thank you for tagging along. This is Eric with the Get Me Out of Here vlog, and now it's time for me to turn in for the night. But for now, it's time for me to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Overall, a wonderful night's stay. This room is incredibly comfortable. I have to say, these pillows were probably the best pillows I've ever had of any hotel. So soft, so comfy. Definitely one of the highlights of the stay here. The bed was amazing. So we had an amazing night's sleep. No spirits, nothing going bump in the night. But I will say, before going to bed, I took some photos of the room in the dark. Now, granted, I think these are dust particles. I don't think these are orbs. But I did get a really strange, hazy-looking orb that was located right here. I'll show you the photo here. But I took that photo from here in the corner of the room, and that hazy-looking orb was right about there in front of that TV stand, and it was actually hovering above the coffee table, which I believe is the same table that ghost hunters claimed that levitated. That's what I'm assuming. That's the only table in this room. But what made me question this a little more than just, oh, it's a dust particle, is we had that mirror angled, and this weird hazy orb, you could see its reflection in the mirror as well on this photo, and I'll show you the photo again. So I still think it's a dust particle. I don't think it was an orb necessarily, but it is kind of a weird looking picture. So that, I think, is probably the strangest thing that I caught here in this room so far. I haven't gone through all of the audio, haven't gone through all the photos yet, but so far that was the one that really caught my eye. So other than my brother having some weird chills yesterday evening and possibly that orb, overall this stay has been absolutely wonderful. So I can't recommend enough. Don't let the spirits scare you away from this incredible room here on the 3rd floor of the lodge, room 1302. Well, that is going to wrap it up with the actual room tour, but there's still a lot to show you today. I want to explore the Stanley Hotel grounds during the daylight now that the sun is up, and they also have a hedge maze in front of the main hotel. So let's wander the grounds today and take in just the beauty of the surrounding Estes Park area and the famous Stanley Hotel.